Alright, what's up guys, I'm randomfrankp, and today we're going to be checking out a brand new keyboard from Razer with the all new release of the Huntsman V3 Pro 8K. So first up, as the name implies with the new 8K polling capabilities, this release from last year's 1kHz V3 Pro does have some other changes and improvements aimed to better your overall gameplay and make this one of the best gaming keyboards out there, continuing Razer's dominance in the gaming and eSports scene. But are these new changes enough for you to pull the trigger? We'll go over it all today. Checking it out right when you get it unboxed, this is physically identical to the last model. No new physical changes to this TKL layout, unfortunately. Something fresh would have been nice, admittedly, as it's the same aluminum top plate, plastic bottom to the board's construction, pretty much a one-to-one when side by side. Now, as I said, it's the TKL layout. It's also available in other options like they're full-sized and in different colors as well, but the TKLs have been dominating sales over the last 5 years, and it's my preference as well. On the top right, you still have your multifunctional multimedia dial that's customizable for all different functions. To the left of that is another multimedia button for skipping tracks, followed by another customizable button that could be anything you want. So set these up, control pretty much anything really for those on-the-fly adjustments. Onboard control does get better and better, letting you save profiles to the board itself for less need and reliance on Synapse for those who don't want to download it, as you can quickly change between 6 different stock gaming profiles. And since the main selling point of these Hall effect rapid trigger boards these days are the customizable switches, those too can be controlled on the fly, letting you adjust your actuation point with the dial and see that pressure point in real time, which is nice because it lets you really dial into your playstyle or to your muscle memory, and the same goes for the rapid trigger sensitivity. All controllable on the keyboard itself, so you have that immediate physical control versus just moving a slider back and forth digitally in Synapse. Now, of course, in Synapse, you're going to have more control and customization options, but so much can be done now on the board that you don't even technically need to have it installed. So in terms of just the physical board itself then, yeah, not really too different from the last model. Like I was saying before, something new this time around would have been appreciated. Even something as simple as like beefing up the wrist rest, because while included, sure, it's just not doing much. It's thin, it's hard, it's like hollow, very plasticky, which is a bummer because if you guys remember a few years ago, Razer was giving us really nice, soft, and cushioned wrist rests. It's like, what happened? But where it starts to get more interesting is inside the keyboard, where you're gonna find more of those new changes. These Gen 2 switches are the same analog optical switches from 2023, so no Gen 3 this time around, but hold on, there are some differences versus the switches that were in last year's V3 Pro, including a slightly altered stem and housing, where the keycap locks into the stem is now rounded versus last year that area was square. Maybe minor, but it does greatly tighten up that tolerance, so there's less wobble to the textured PBT keycaps. The switches are adjustable from 0.1mm to 4mm, and going further with that keystroke feel when typing or gaming, there's additional lubing to these switches this time around for a smoother actuation, and internally to the board, they've beefed up the dampening with a nice thick layer of foam. So just real quick, I don't get the feeling that they want you to take this board apart because there's no key switch or keycap puller included, which is noteworthy because with that new tolerance to the stem, they're not the easiest to pull off when they're against the plate of the board. On the bottom side, it is that same thin layer of foam on the plastic base, but now on top underneath the PCB, you have a much thicker layer of dense foam here to help absorb the pinging and hollowness that you get when you have a plastic bottom, and especially with all the moving parts to these per key stabilizers on each of the analog keys. But due to the new construction to the switches, the lubing, the new foam, it hands down sounds and feels much better than previous models, despite there not being a major physical difference. So we'll do a sound test now so you can hear how the new board sounds. So I think it sounds and feels pretty good here. And again, for each key having those individual stabilizers on the side, there's like no rattle whatsoever. The improved lubing and the dampening layers really doing a lot here. It's a deeper, more full sound overall, so good stuff. Now, one of the main selling points of this keyboard, and it was introduced last year, took the world by storm when it was introduced to the masses, is gonna be SnapTap, or SOCD. That obviously returns. Quick rundown for those who aren't familiar, SOCD ensures that when two keys are selected, like A and D, they're never actuated together, which would result in a null movement during strafing, either bringing your character to a complete stop or just continuing in one direction. Therefore, SnapTap, SOCD, automatically deactivates your opposing input when you actuate the other, like releasing A when you press D. That otherwise manual movement is now done automatically, versus you having to time those movements physically with your fingers. Advantages to this include, rapid micro movements, making you a harder target to hit, more controlled peaks and strafing, resulting in controlled spray. So while A and D are gonna be the most common SnapTap keys because it's your movement, you can remap these to be other keys as well, and you can save these onto the keyboard's firmware itself, all while picking things like whether you want your last input prioritized, neutral, left or right. There's some other ones, so this gives you a lot of options to really have that advantage. Now the thing with SnapTap, since it became such a hot topic last year for being kind of too OP, kind of like cheating, lots of games just flat out banned it altogether, or disabled it for online versus offline. So it's really on a game-to-game basis right now on whether you could even take advantage of this. So depending on what games you play, do some research, because SOCD is not going to be available for all games and could just be flat out banned. And that's gonna be the main thing, right? If you're buying this board for SOCD, obviously make sure the game that you're playing could even, take advantage of it. But when you combine the new 8K hertz polling with these rapid trigger switches, the 0.1mm sensitivity, and SOCD, if you can use it, this does feel super, super quick. Now, yes, 8K hertz is going to be more of a favorable feature on a mouse, because that's really mapping your every movement 24/7 versus on a keyboard, you're only pressing 5 keys at a time, max, right? So when you think of it like that, 8K is not going to provide an absolute groundbreaking difference here. But where Razer says this is going to come, most handy is when you're actually comparing latency. That's where the 8K is going to help out a bit. They're claiming now you get just 0.58 milliseconds average latency on the V3 Pro 8K hertz versus last year's model, with it being 1K hertz, 1.7 millimeters latency. Other advantages to these analog optical switches, and again, their tech inside, also gonna give you a favorable advantage when you take a look at their actual precision of these switches. When you set this to that 0.1 millimeter actuation, they're saying it's a true 0.1 millimeter with barely any deviation. And why that's important is because other keyboards will claim, sure, you're at 0.1 millimeters, but in reality, when you test it, it's 0.15 or 0.2 actually. So that deviance while you're gaming, while not maybe immediately noticeable to you, from their tests that I can't test or back up, they claim this is the most accurate and precise keyboard on the market with some of the best latency results you'll find. Now, when I was testing this and gaming with it, did it feel lightning fast? Yes. Am I able to tell 0.1 millimeters from 0.125 millimeters? No. Am I really able to tell a difference of 8K hertz from 4K to 2K to 1K? Not entirely, because again, you're only pressing a certain amount of keys at one time, but I'll take their word for it. Because you take a look at their reputation over the last few years, their keyboards have been dominating the eSports scene, and this only getting better here. So at the end of the day, I can't refute Razer's claims with this being one of the fastest gaming keyboards on the market, not only in terms of milliseconds and latency, but in terms of just having the actual switches at 0.1 millimeters with rapid trigger SOCD being so accurate, giving you the edge over other keyboards out there. My just major complaint with this release is I feel like this all could have possibly been like a software update or something. I just want something new that's gonna make, picking up pretty much an identical keyboard 1 year later worth it. And, not to give Logitech any credit, but they've done this in the past where they've kept that same physical release, but via a firmware updated the polling rate and stuff. So I wish we could have had that, or just give us something new to this board that would have really had people chomping at the bit to get this for this holiday season. But at the same time, this is what most companies do year after year, right? Minor improvements, brand new release. It's not more money, it's the same price as last year's model, which is good. So you're not overspending despite the tariffs and the current, market and stuff of these gaming keyboards and just peripherals really skyrocketing over the last year. So they're honoring the same price, which is good. Is this also gonna dominate the esports scene yet again? Yes. Is it all enough for you to upgrade? That's gonna be completely up to you. If you wanna check it out, I'll have it listed for you guys in the description down below, so you can check it out. All right, so that'll wrap it up for my review of the brand new Razer Huntsman V3 Pro 8K Hertz gaming keyboard. Hope you all enjoyed. If you like this review, if it helped you out, give it a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on all socials at randomfrankp. And last, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.